The air in this reclaimed substation hums with latent power, a low thrumming that makes the old metal racks sing. Patch cables snake across the floor like restless roots, connecting salvaged gear to the beating heart of our signal. The scent of hot vacuum tubes and ink from freshly Xeroxed zines hangs heavy, a DIY incense for the airwaves.
Black Star Pirate Radio.
Toronto checks in at 69 degrees and sunny. Winds are moving from the southwest at 9 miles per hour. Now, for our first signal break. Spain's Directorate General for the Regulation of Gambling, the DGOJ, has blocked access to prediction markets like Polymarket and Kalshi within its borders. This move stems from a comprehensive gambling license investigation, asserting that these platforms, operating without Spanish authorization, fall under existing gaming legislation. It's a direct confrontation between regulatory control and emerging financial prediction tools.
The structural consequence is immediate. Thousands of Spanish users are now cut off from these platforms, representing a direct loss of access to potential financial instruments and information signals. For Polymarket and Kalshi, it means a significant market withdrawal, potentially impacting their user base and operational expansion across the EU. A viable alternative for those seeking similar market exposure might be a regulated spread betting platform or even traditional stock options, though these carry different risk profiles and regulatory oversight.
This situation echoes older narratives of cultural control, where national gates determine what flows through digital currents. We're seeing the assertion of national sovereignty over global digital commons. The DGOJ's move highlights how a single national authority can disrupt the wisdom of crowds on a regional scale, much like a town elder declaring certain markets off-limits. The chosen next move for the DGOJ is to continue its licensing investigation, putting the onus on platforms to comply or exit.
Or the alternative path. These platforms could pursue specific EU-wide digital services licenses or even national gambling licenses in Spain, which would be a costly and complex undertaking but would validate their operational model within legal frameworks. It's about building a consent-based architecture for digital finance, not just an outer gate.
We have a caller on the line, the Boundary Keeper. Welcome to the signal. Good morning, Togee. Regarding Spain's block, isn't this stifling innovation? Prediction markets can be powerful tools for aggregating information, for example, on election outcomes or commodity prices. What specific criteria does the DGOJ use to categorize these as gambling rather than legitimate financial or informational tools? Is there data supporting that classification? Coffee's cold. Doesn't matter. The signal is warm and the board is reading clean. An excellent challenge, Boundary Keeper. Your demand for evidence helps us sharpen our discernment. The DGOJ's classification hinges on several factors: the payment of money to participate, the uncertainty of the outcome, and the potential for a monetary prize. They consider the intent of the user to profit from a prediction, combined with the randomness of the event, as aligning squarely with traditional gambling definitions, regardless of the informational utility.
To your point about data, the DGOJ analyzes the mechanics of the platform itself. If a user wagers €10 on an event and either wins a payout or loses the principal based on that event's occurrence, it fits their legal framework for gambling. The regulatory choice here favors consumer protection from potentially unregulated financial risk over open market access. The platform's next move is either to challenge this legal interpretation or pursue Spanish licensing, which would involve significant operational shifts.
The DGOJ's framework for gambling often considers the lack of regulatory oversight and consumer protections typical of established financial markets. They're not just looking at the payout, but also the absence of investor safeguards. We've seen similar debates play out with crypto exchanges, where national regulators prioritize a clear provenance of funds and participant dignity within regulated systems.
And the alternative path for platforms seeking specific EU or national licensing directly addresses that regulatory vacuum. If these prediction markets were to integrate verifiable identity checks, transparent fee structures, and clear risk disclosures, the argument shifts from is it gambling to is it a fairly regulated market?
From national structures asserting control over global digital markets, we pivot to challenges within a nation's own civic architecture. A federal court in Alabama just blocked a new voting map, again citing concerns about fair representation. This decision by a 3-judge federal panel, following the Supreme Court's own instruction, found Alabama's newly drawn congressional map still likely violates the Voting Rights Act. It's a direct challenge to the state's attempt to minimize black voters' influence, despite a significant black population.
The concrete consequence is that Alabama's Republican-led legislature is now mandated to redraw its congressional districts again, preventing the use of Act 2023-579 for the upcoming 2024 elections. This exposes the state to further legal costs and political instability. The previous map only created one majority-minority district out of 7, despite black residents making up 27% of the state's population, which clearly diluted their electoral power. A viable alternative, as indicated by the Supreme Court, would be a map featuring at least 2 districts where black voters have a realistic opportunity to elect their preferred candidates.
This ongoing struggle in Alabama is a powerful echo of the 1965 Voting Rights Act itself, a lineage of battles fought for the dignity of every citizen's vote. It's about ensuring the architectural signal of democracy isn't distorted by gerrymandering. The images of Selma and Montgomery still resonate, reminding us who carries this fight for equitable representation. The chosen next move is for the Alabama legislature to produce a compliant map or face direct judicial intervention.
Or, the alternative path, a nonpartisan redistricting commission could be established, as seen in states like California, to remove political motivations from the map drawing process entirely. This would build a more resilient civic architecture from the ground up, favoring consent over partisan advantage. It's about designing a system where every voice is a structural vector, not a variable to be controlled.
This surge of World Cup excitement, particularly with the 2026 tournament co-hosted by the USA, Canada, and Mexico, is injecting tangible optimism into NYC's immigrant neighborhoods. After the chilling effect of the Trump administration's heightened ICE raids and travel bans from 2017 to 2020, communities in places like Jackson Heights, Queens, and parts of the Bronx are finding renewed vibrancy and economic activity.
The concrete impact is a vital economic and psychological boost for small businesses and residents exposed to previous policy shifts. Local restaurants and shops, many family-owned, are anticipating a significant increase in patronage, celebrating cultural pride through shared sporting events. The previous crackdowns led to measurable declines in local commerce and increased fear, prompting many to avoid public gatherings. A viable alternative for fostering community resilience outside of major events involves sustained local government investment in immigrant services and cultural programs year-round, not just relying on a quadrennial boost.
This global spectacle of football acts as a powerful cultural antidote, a universal language that transcends political divides and reinforces a sense of belonging and dignity. We see vibrant street festivals blooming, flags from dozens of nations flying side by side in places like Corona, Queens. It's a temporary reweaving of the social fabric that frayed under past pressures, showing how shared passion can rebuild trust. The chosen next move for these communities is to leverage this momentum to build lasting economic and social ties, solidifying their inner architectures against future external shocks.
Or, the alternative path, city planners could integrate these spontaneous cultural gatherings into permanent urban design, creating dedicated public spaces and funding for year-round multicultural festivals. This moves beyond temporary fever and builds enduring civic architecture, turning fleeting joy into structural community strength. It's about translating collective energy into playable, sustainable systems for integration.
Black Star Pirate Radio.
Continue the signal at TogeeVision.com Tune in, Sparks and Stories, Gig Passport.